who's invested in the company. So I have 3 individuals and one entity that own just under 10%. So let's just call that 40% of the company right there. That would be Eric Sprott, of course. Now, Eric's in a lot of things, supporting a lot of good
Basically
stories.
everything.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, still, like, he took me fishing a little while ago, so we're in the good books with him. Kevin Jennings. Kevin Jennings was a CFO, Barrick Africa. He found me looking at the drill results. He owns 9.9% of the company. 𝗏𝗏𝗦𝗢𝗏 out of Switzerland. There's two, and then there's an individual, I can't mention his name, out of Switzerland, but Gold 2000, that's Eric Mayer, owns 9.9% of this company. And then the Swiss National, that's just 4. I own 5% of the company still. Ross Beatty owns 5% of the company. Peter Brown, Carlos Savelli. Like, I've really only gone whale hunting. They're not there for the flip of, 20 cents to 25 cents, right? They are there for the transaction. And really, when I out there marketing and trying to arm wrestle people to supporting us, what I sell is the transaction.
All right, Brad, well, we're super stoked to have you here today with us on Mine Stock Talk, and we're going to get into some really nitty-gritties of exciting things that you guys got going on. But first, we'd love it if you could give us a brief overview of the Golden Triangle, Scottie Resources, and the focus of the company these days. And obviously, we want to know a little bit about your background, and we know that you have a background in real estate, which I find interesting and how that would tie into the mining business.
Wow, what you just asked me to say will make me talk for about 3 hours.
Well, we don't have that much time, so.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm Brad Roarke, President and CEO of Scottie Resources. We are an exploration company operating out of the Golden Triangle. That's in Northwest BC, and probably don't have to explain where the Golden Triangle is these days. Just mining people are looking at these videos. So we're really happy. I was an investor in this company and ended up taking it over in 2016. So I'm kind of an accidental CEO. So I'm going into my 9th year. When I first got involved, I was retired and living in Smithers, British Columbia, so just pretty darn close to the town of Stewart. And the reason I got involved was I was aware of the Scottie gold mine. So this is a past producing gold mine that only operated for just 3.5 years in the it started in 1980s. And if we remember, I was around and a functioning human being at that time, but gold was $800 an ounce. And by 1984, gold went to $300 an ounce. And so this was Don McLeod's first mine. It produced a half ounce per ton back then. And so I was aware of that. And I go, it was economics that shut it down, not that they even did any property-wide exploration. So this was my due diligence as an investor. It was truly a function of Don borrowed $20 million from the Royal Bank of Canada in 1980 to start mining at Scottie. If you borrowed $20 million in 1980, you're paying 22% interest. So when the commodity price rolled over, you just couldn't get out from under that weight, even though it was producing a half ounce per ton. That was the one piece of information going, wow, if you want to find gold, you go to where it's found before. This was a very long time ago. And the other factor was infrastructure, and this will tie into real estate. In the little town that I was living in and raising my children, Smithers, had the operations office for both Pritium and for Seabridge. I was on the front end of a company called Black Diamond Camps, and we were deploying trailers so they could build that hydro power line to get up to the Bruce Jack. And it was right beside Scottie. So I was like, infrastructure, past producing mine, what could go wrong? And my education started. So here I am 9 years later. I've never worked harder on anything else. Lo and behold, we've had very, very good success with the drill bit and have been able to attract some of the most impressive investors. We haven't really made any shareholders any money, but we have also, from a private placement point of view, really haven't lost anybody any money either. And that's kind of a sideways is the new up these days. So I think our day is coming. Couple events that happened in the area. Again, Pritium was bought by Newcrest, and then it was bought by Newmont, which is really, really good. The world's largest gold companies I share a very big border with. Seabridge, the world's largest gold deposit on planet Earth, is just north of me. And then just as recently, within the last month, is Ascot finally got that mill turning. They're just greasing the wheels. I don't think anyone should be too excited about the first quarter of production. Much like if you buy a fast sports car, you don't ramp her up to 7,000 RPM right away. Otherwise, you'll break it. I think by the end of this year, we might be able to really get a value to what Ascot's worth. I know the area well, and I've watched this a long time ago. I mean, I worked in mining services in the late 80s and the early 90s. It was Westman Mine back then, but I remember when town of Stewart had 2,000 people living in it, and now it's about 300. But that's up and going, and ultimately, I think that's going to be good for us and our shareholders. We're in the right area. Gold price is doing extremely well. Now, the equities haven't really participated this far down the chain, but we are seeing lights of it where Newmont's not a great example, but it's probably a 25% uptick from the beginning of the year. Now I'm just making these up. I follow every day, but more importantly, you got the Agnico Eagles and Kinross. These things are actually starting to get a life. Once we see those move, I think we get trickled down to our little sector, and then I think our shareholders will do just fine.
Let me ask you about the deal you did with Franco-Nevada to understand maybe what you did there and what that means for Scottie.
2024, what happened to us, we've had fantastic drill results for the last 5 years. Great. But really things started changing for us at the beginning of the year when Michael Gray from 𝗙𝗫𝗦𝗃 started writing about Scottie. It was something that we wanted, very independent analyst. So he kind of wrote an 11-page report on Scottie. And then the next domino to drop after that is Ross Beaty bought about 5% of my company. So it's a substantial investment from Ross. Just closed Franco a few weeks back to the tune of just under $10 million. People should focus on, from a retail point of view, is that's the best technical team on the planet Earth. They don't typically come this far down the chain because I do not have a published resource. And Franco doesn't give money to companies without published resources. And not only did they give us about $8.1 million for a 2% royalty at Scottie, they also gave $1.5 million equity. Yet again, something that they don't typically do. It was a grueling exercise from my point of view. The due diligence and I mean, this Franco's used to doing business with a lot bigger companies with teams of lawyers and their team of lawyers and just me trying to save every dollar I can. So it was difficult. In the past, I've done 3 bot deals. There's a lot of moving parts to a bot deal, and that bank will, put you through 180 questions and you have to check every box. They check every line item financially. They really, really go through the whole company. The dealing with Franco made bot deals look like a birthday party. It was difficult, but we did pass and we're very flattered. And what that I hope resonates with the market would be, you don't have to believe me or Tom. More importantly, Thomas, my geologist, really, really fantastic for Scottie to have a young PhD like Thomas come in here and pick these drill targets. And that's the real reason we have the success. But now that with the Franco piece, Michael and Ross, validation on the technical aspects of the company. So could probably breathe a little bit like, hey, should I trust this guy or not? But kind of gone through the ringer with people that are a whole lot smarter than we are. They're supporting us, and we're just really lucky that we can continue the work we've been doing year after year. And right, with the commodity price as high as it is, we don't owe a penny to anybody. We have no property payment. I have one of the largest land packages in the Golden Triangle now, about 58,500 hectares. A lot of it has power and road, which makes me unique. So that infrastructure piece would be a lot easier for us and perhaps some of the other great companies in our area. I've never had a treasury like we have, and so we're really happy that Franco came in. And my phone's been ringing quite frequently since that transaction because people want to understand how it came about.
That sounds really incredible. Now, there was a news release that happened on May 8th about your fully financed at $4.5 million, I think it was, your exploration plan for the year. So could you just give us a few key points on what that looks like?
The way that we've come up with that drill program, because it is a little smaller than we did last year and the year before, and we spent every dollar in the last few years. I raised about $4 or $5 million, and I'd spend every penny. But we were still on the hunt. We were really trying to prove out the Blueberry and Scottie. But we're at a real comfortable point in the company where we have a lot of confidence. We just keep adding ounces. So we just took this large treasury we have, and I just said, look, let's take 33% of it, and that's what we're going to spend. And we're going to end up doing a few things that we've wanted to do in the past, but didn't because we were too scared to, because of finances, and just weren't sure. It's a real mix this year rather than for the last 2 years, it's 90% was Blueberry, and rightfully so. I mean, it's been a fantastic asset for us. We are going to continue drilling Blueberry because we can continue to add ounces, hopefully at the same rate we have been over the last few years. So you can kind of expect much of the same. Hopefully the results are as good as they were, but we're going to go underground at Scottie. We've had the permits to do that for a couple of years now, but it's just expensive, so we didn't. And the reason we feel that we're going to do it this year is we're a little bit more confident with our financial situation, but we think it's really important because in our estimation, just 2 or 3 confirmation holes underground will allow us to add to the resource, because everybody goes, when are you going to put out a resource? And we've drilled Blueberry to a point where we're really close that we could put something out, but we really want to be able to add what's at Scottie. We've done less drilling, but there's a 700 drill hole database from previous times. And then we've done, every year we're drilling always 2,000 or 3,000 meters at Scottie. So we'll do that. And then we've got a C&D vein, which we discovered a couple of years back. That's now that we have enough holes into it, we believe we understand it, so we can really lean into that a little bit more. You just can't go drill a whole bunch of holes in an area. You got to come up with a business case why you would do that. So for the last 2 seasons, we believe we have a handle on the geometry of what's happening there. We'll kind of get to really lean into that. And then we're going to go drill 2 blind targets that we've, on the same technical ideas we had at Blueberry, we've got 6 more of these. And so we're going to pick 2. We know one that's right between C&D and Scottie. And then we're going to play poker because we have 4 other ones, and we'll just decide which one to go put 2,000 meters into. We haven't determined which one of those geophysical targets to drill yet. I think the market can expect news from Scottie, from the C&D and Blueberry, and then a couple new targets. And if those hit, so we're going to give a little bit of everything for people to expect this year. And even with that $5 million program that we've laid out, we should have more news, which is hopefully the driver for a higher stock price. And if the market turns in the next 6 weeks, I can scale this program up. I have 100,000 meters in drill targeting. It's just a matter of managing the shareholders' money that you don't blow them out.
Obviously, it sounds like the company, the team you have, get along really well, but can you tell me who maybe are the biggest shareholders and what the board of directors are like?
I'm really proud about the board of directors. And again, go refer to my web page and look at my presentation there. Why I'm really, really enthused with my board is nobody knew each other before the formation of the board. And that might be a little unique for junior exploration. And if you look at the skill sets, we've got Ernie Mast, who's more of a C-suite kind of guy. He built 𝘀𝗡𝗦𝗢𝗪, was the COO of New Gold, sees things from a lens of big companies. But then to balance him off, we have John Williamson on my board, which is quite simply a junior exploration legend. I mean, 𝘊𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝘊𝗏𝗏𝗏, Benchmark, 𝘙𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝘊𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 founders. Like, I mean, these are all companies that John has put together. Those 2 guys have 2 different views. It's great. Then Steve Stein, who's an accredited board member, which you don't get many accredited board members at his junior exploration company. But he built Black Diamond Camps from a napkin to a $2 billion company. And then Ellie Owens, who's a geologist and a legal degree. It's a really well-run board, and the board runs me. I don't run the board. Who's invested in the company? So I have 4 individuals 3 individuals and 1 entity that own just under 10%. So let's just call that 40% of the company right there. That would be Eric Sprott, of course. Now, Eric's in a lot of things, supporting a lot of good stories. yeah, for sure. But I mean, still, he took me fishing a little while ago, so we're in the good books with him. Kevin Jennings. Kevin Jennings was a CFO, Barrick Africa. He found me looking at the drill results. He owns 9.9% of the company. Conwave out of Switzerland. There's 2, and then there's an individual, I can't mention his name, out of Switzerland, but Gold 2000, that's Eric Mayer, owns 9.9% of this company. And then the Swiss National, that's just 4. I own 5% of the company still. Ross Beatty owns 5% of the company. Peter Brown, Carlos Savalli. Like, I've really only gone whale hunting. They're not there for the flip of, 20 cents to 25 cents, right? They are there for the transaction. And really, when I out there marketing and trying to arm wrestle people to supporting us, what I sell is the transaction. 2 mills on either side of us. We've certainly have a very exciting deposit. Those rocks at Blueberry will make their way through a mill. I don't think anybody will argue that. Done the metallurgy work on Blueberry, Scottie, and we're compatible with both mills. They're 2 different mills. One's a gravity flotation up at Bruce Jack, and one's a CIL plant at the Ascot mill, the old Premier. We know that the ore is compatible, 20 kilometers away from each. So really what I've been selling to the bigger shareholders, when there's a transaction, all we need to answer for ourselves from an investor point of view is, what is the value of an ounce of gold in the ground sitting where it is, the grade that it is, and very steeply dipping. I mean, I start right at surface from the Blueberry, and then Scottie's 7 kilometers of workings. We're not going deep. There's no dewatering. Theoretically, it's very easy accessible ore. But yeah, it's an impressive, and of course, Franco-Nevada. I didn't even mention Franco, but they do have a little bit of equity piece. That 8% or the $8 million, 8.1 million that they just gave me, if you look back on my presentations from 2 years ago, I bought my royalties back 3% for about $2 million. So I just sold 2 for 8. So I think that was a really good deal for my shareholders because there's no dilution involved. That benefit will go to the shareholders. And then if there's a new shareholder thinking of coming down to this sector, all those big names that I told you, they're actually all in for a penny or two higher than you can buy it today. Like all my private placements from about 2020 to now, last 4 years have been 21, 22, 23 cents. There's nobody in front of anybody, which is a great investment opportunity as far as I can see.
Scottie's operating in the traditional territory of 𝗙𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏, and so we're just curious what you're doing for community engagement and in terms of importance of building respectful and mutual beneficial relationships.
The actual Scottie, correct, is 𝗙𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 territory, but because we have such a large land package, we also have lands that would fall into the 𝗙𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 territory, and then also in 𝘀𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏, if you go a little bit north of where Scottie Gold Mine. So we want to recognize everybody in the area. But because I've lived in the area most of my life, most of my adult life, it might have been a little bit easier on me, I guess. I mean, Dave Griffin and I have been friends since 1987. He's a big educator in the 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 territory. There's very few of us that are actually raised their families in the area that are in this business. You got me and you got the McLeods. It's been a wonderful relationship. We've had up to 34% of our employees from the local community, but it's hard to find employees no matter where you're from. If we can get this to the next stage, that's when you could have a generation of benefits for the community. It's about relationships.
When we come up into the area, you could introduce us to some of them. We'd love it because we'd like to come up and film, see the property, the infrastructure, and meet some of the people in the First Nations communities.
Sure, it's wonderful. I mean, there's some beautiful communities in 𝗙𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 territory. I mean, you have the lava beds, which is really kind of cool. And you get out to 𝗀𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and like, this is some beautiful, beautiful territory. It's just some of the most beautiful topography in the world. Come see the Salmon Glacier. I was part of the Eskay Creek staking rush and such, but what really turned things around is when they put that Northwest transmission line up.
Calling all savvy investors in mining and resources. Seeking the inside track on Scottie Resources? Look no further than 𝗦𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Our cutting-edge search tool is not only designed to reveal hidden gems, but also provides real-time stock updates. Visit for the insights and stay for the gains. Seize the opportunity and explore the magic at 𝗦𝗖𝗢𝗢𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Uncover new investment possibilities today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's get the word out there.